Okay, so pretty great news for you upcoming Model 3 buyers, particularly in Germany and France, because Tesla cut the prices on the Model 3 just last night, and no word yet on if these price cuts are going to expand out of these two countries, but they're fairly competitive, and it basically ranges in Germany between 3,000 and 4,000 euro price cuts, depending on which configuration you go with. So the standard range plus variant is around 3,000 euros cheaper, and after federal incentives, you're looking at close to a 34,000 euro starting price, which is definitely a lot better than it was yesterday. But the most massive price cuts I think I've ever seen a Model 3 ever have in its lifetime happened last night in France, where we are seeing price cuts between 9 and 10,000 euros, which, if you guys are curious of the equivalents to the US dollar, that's close to 10 or 12,000 US dollars cheaper than just 24 hours ago. Now, a lot of people are saying that these price cuts are mainly because of the growth in value of the euro, and Tesla does not, continuously update their Model 3 pricing based on what the value of the euro is, and they haven't changed the prices there for a long time. So the fact that they're changing them now might be just to reflect that increased value of the euro, but still, in my opinion, it's worth celebrating because these types of price cuts do not happen every single day, and these price cuts are more than likely possible because of Giga Shanghai ramping up more Model 3 production and being capable of exporting a lot of vehicles to Europe. So more than likely that standard range variant both for Germany and France are going to be rocking the lithium iron phosphate batteries, which, in case you didn't know, are cobalt free and have a fairly high cycle life, which is great news for you European buyers. And also, from statistical evidence, we've seen that Giga Shanghai is producing far higher quality control vehicles than Fremont, which means that potential Model 3 buyers in Europe should expect way better quality control moving forward. And I have to admit, Tesla is competing with a lot of really fairly priced electric vehicles in the European market, so it's probably a great idea for them to cut prices to be a lot more competitive to vehicles like the Polestar 2, as well as the VW ID3, which is a very popular vehicle in Europe, and the Zoe, and so much more that's really popular in the European market that Tesla has a hard time competing with before Giga Berlin is operational. So in case some of you are curious, now that Giga Shanghai has officially started deliveries of the Model Y in China, do they plan on exporting Model Ys to the European market? I don't think so, most likely because Giga Berlin is really only a few months away from being finished, and that's when I think you should really start to see Tesla be a lot more competitive in the European market, because right now they have to ship, these giant, super heavy, super large vehicles across the ocean and across the planet to get them into Europe, and that costs a lot of money, plus there's import tariffs, whereas if Tesla starts building their vehicles in the European Union, in Germany specifically, they get to bypass a lot of those import tariffs and they don't have to spend so much money on shipping them. So Model Y is most likely not going to be delivered in Europe until Giga Berlin is operational, but honestly, I think it's going to be operational a little bit ahead of schedule, which means probably around the month of May or June you will see Model Ys coming out of that factory, but a lot of construction still going on there for the finishing touches, and it really is honestly starting to look like a completed building, a facility with roads and windows and siding. And of course, the Model Ys coming out of that factory line are going to be rocking the 4680 cells we heard so much about at Battery Day. So my prediction is that the first Model Ys coming out of Berlin are probably going to have game-changing amounts of range for the price they end up charging for them. So that's why it's probably a little bit unfair to look at these Model 3 price cuts today and say, well, it's not quite as cheap as a lot of the best-selling EVs in Europe. Yeah, that makes sense because these things are being built in China and shipped so far away. But the fact that they're getting closer, and of course the operating costs in China are a lot lower, so they can afford to profitably sell these vehicles in the European market and have them cost a whole lot less than they did before, is probably just going to hold over the more affordable EV market for the short term, but in time, they want to eventually build the Model 3 out of Giga Berlin. But if my hunch is correct, my prediction is that they're going to scrap the Model 3 in its current design from construction in Giga Berlin and instead go straight to the European hatchback as soon as they're done ramping Model Y production, which could take around a year, which, means it's going to take some time for Tesla to scale up the factory and have a whole separate assembly line. Similar to Giga Shanghai, they were just doing Model 3 production ramp for a full year before Model Y production started. So in Berlin, probably around summertime of next year, they'll be able to start producing the next vehicle out of Berlin, which Tesla is currently saying will be the Model 3, but Elon has alluded to many times in the past, them wanting to do a European-style hatchback that would be more affordable and probably better suited for European roadways. And honestly, I think spending a whole year just on being able to build Model 3 companies just in Berlin. Probably not going to be a great utilization of time if you can price them somewhat competitively already just by importing them from Shanghai, and I think that the subcompact hatchback market would probably sell a lot better in Europe anyway, so just focusing on that with your 4680 cells and let Giga Shanghai do the Model 3 production while they can. I think this means that Tesla is going to have quite a strong lead in Europe moving forward, and I'm very curious, how many German and France viewers do we have out there that are now very curious with Model 3 pricing, and do you think this gives them a competitive edge, or do you think that the prices still have to come quite a bit lower? I know that a lot of the countries in Europe still haven't had price changes, but hopefully you guys see those soon. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.